that the Prophet ﷺ, he made a dua for Medina to for double the blessings in Medina than Makkah. And there is also a narration from Ibn Umar radiallahu an that the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man istata'a an yamuta bil Madinati falyamut biha fa inni ashfa'u liman yamutu biha." That those who has means to die in Medina, let him die there. Rasulullah is saying and encouraging us, if you have the mean to die in Medina, Rasulullah is saying, let him die there. For I shall intercede on behalf of everyone who dies in Medina. This is the virtue of Medina. Rasulullah is saying, those who has his mean to die in Medina, let him die there. Because inshallah ta'ala, on the day of judgment, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself will make intercession, the shafa'at for him, the one who dies in Medina. So there was a great personality at that time who used to make dua to die in Medina. The Khalifatul Muslimin, Amirul Mu'mineen, Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu. He used to make dua, Allahumma arzuqni shahadatan fi sabilika wa waj'al mawti fi baladi rasulika sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That, oh Allah, grant me martyrdom in your cause, fi sabilika, and let my death be in the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Every time he used to make this dua, Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab, that, oh Allah, give me martyrdom in your cause, in your way, and in the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Who is Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu? Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu was the greatest leader of the Muslimin. He was the Khalifatul Muslimin, the leader of the believers. He was Amirul Mu'mineen, the second caliph. And he was born after 11 years of Amul Fil. Amul Fil was the time when the elephant, the Abraha, the king who came to Mecca to destroy Kaaba, where we recite Surah Fil, Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil fil. That was the year, Amul Fil, the year of elephant. So he was born 11 years after the Amul Fil, after the year of elephant. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born on the same year of the Amul Fil. And he accepted Islam, he embraced Islam in 27th year. While his age was 27 years, he accepted Islam. And with that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave a new height to Islam. He strengthened Islam. And it was a dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he was a kind of a towering figure. His demeanor was very strong. And whenever he used to be with the public, people used to think that he is mounting us or riding something, and the people around him is standing. He was so tall and so physically very strong personality, and his personality was intimidating, not just for the enemies, but also for the friends. Even his friends used to think for a while before speaking. That was Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu. And one day while he was walking through the streets, he just saw a woman who was pregnant. He just saw, and that woman got miscarriage just because of his looks. That was so intimidating. So people started saying that Umar have to give the qisas, the blood money now. But Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, who was also his advisor, he says, no, this will be given from the Baytul Mal. That was Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu. And as I said, that it was the dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because Rasulullah knows that who Umar is, the personality. And so he was one of the prominent figure of Makkah. And also Abu Jahl, Amr ibn Hisham. So he made dua, Allahumma a'izzil Islam bi ahabbi hadhaini rajulain ilayka bi Abu Jahl aw bi Umar ibn al-Khattab. Qala wa kana ahabbahuma ilayhi Umar. That Rasulullah made dua that, oh Allah, strengthen Islam with one of two men whom you love more. Either it should be Abu Jahl, Amr ibn Hisham, or Umar ibn al-Khattab. So Ibn Umar narrates that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loved Umar ibn al-Khattab more than Abu Jahl. So he embraced Islam. He accepted Islam. And it's reported by Ibn Asakir and Abu Nu'aym that when he accepted Islam, the Muslim used to pray secretly in Darul Arqam. When he accepted Islam, he asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, are we not on the straight path? Are we not on haqq? Rasulullah said, by Allah in whose hand my soul is, definitely we are on the straight path. We are on haqq. We are on the right path. He said, if we are on the right path, why are we praying secretly? Let us pray openly. Let us go to the Haram of Mecca. Let us go to the Kaaba. We'll pray in the Kaaba today. We'll pray in the Haram today. And that was the day when, under the leadership of Umar and Sayyidina Amir Hamza radiallahu an, two groups went to Kaaba, went to the Haram of Mecca, and then they prayed there. Upon that, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, indeed, you are Al-Farooq. You are the one who distinguishes between what is right and wrong. You are Farooq. You are the one who distinguishes between haqq and batil. That was Sayyidina Umar. His title was Al-Farooq by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Actually, Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam came and said that Umar have distinguished this between the haqq and batil. So Rasulullah gave him this title. That's the reason why he's known as Al-Farooq. So he was not just a brave man, he was a true leader. He was a Khalifatul Muslimin, the leader of the believers. And he was very strict when it comes to the Islamic principle, the Sharia. When it comes to the Sharia, he was very strict. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ashidda'u ala al-kuffar in Surah Al-Fath. Allah is saying that they are tough on the disbelievers, on the kuffar, on the disbelievers. And the Mufassirin says that this quality that's mentioned in the Quran, Ashidda'u ala al-kuffar, that they are tough on the disbelievers, is about Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu. He was very strict about the Islamic laws, Islamic principles, the Sharia. So, what happens? That when Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu became the Khalifa, Islamic rule got strengthened, as it was the dua of Rasulullah, Allahumma a'izzil Islam. O Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, strengthen Islam with Umar ibn al-Khattab. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave that strength to Islam, because he conquered under his reign the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, and whole of the Egypt was conquered. And also Al-Quds, the Jerusalem, was also conquered under the rule of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu. And then what happened? When the Byzantines, they surrendered and they want to give in, they suggested, one of them was the leader of and the chief of those Christians. His name was Sophronius. He was the leader of those Byzantines. So he suggested that we will give this key of Baytul Maqdis to the believers, to the leader of the believers, to the Amirul Mu'mineen. We want him to come and take in person these keys. So he got advice from his council, and Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu again, he gave this advice that you should go to Jerusalem and take that keys in person. So now Umar ibn al-Khattab, one of the powerful man at that time, by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is going to Jerusalem as a Fatih, as victorious. And how was he heading towards Jerusalem? With a sword and one servant and a camel. No delegation. Not even a turban on his head, not even a helmet on his head. And with 17 multicolored patches on his clothes. This was the humbleness of the leader of Muslimin, the powerful man of that world, of that time. This was the entry of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab while he was entering Jerusalem. Just one servant, one sword and a camel. This is how they were entering. And they divided the riding of the camel. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh, he divided the riding of the camel that equally with his servant. That When it will be the time, you will be riding the camel and I will be walking. So when it was a time to enter Jerusalem, Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh was walking and his servant was riding the camel. There were people, large numbers of people and spectators wanted to see the man himself who has conquered Jerusalem. Everyone were on the streets. They want to see who that person is because it was the first time that Umar radiallahu anh was coming to Jerusalem. So everyone was gathered there. And people, when they noticed that someone is riding the camel, they started saying, "Oh, that is your Amir al-Mu'mineen? That is your leader?" Then the Sahaba that were present there, they said, "No, the one who is walking is the leader of Mu'mineen, is the leader of the believers. That is Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu." This is how Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anh showed us and taught us how you should be humble to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How you should be when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you authority and power. When the servant insisted that I think you should now ride the camel, I think you should come on the camel so the people can see that the leader of the believers is coming. What Umar radiallahu anh said? He said, honor is to the one who fulfills the trust. Who fulfills the trust, honor is just for them. That was the words of Umar radiallahu anh. And when Sophronius, that leader of Byzantines, when he saw that, he said, while handing the keys, he said that with a leader like you, your people will never be defeated. That is the reason why in the span of 10 years, his khilafat was for 10 years and 6 months. In this span, he reformed and established the khilafah in such a way that he got new things and he reformed Islam under the basic principle of and the Sharia of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Under that principles of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was the one who established judiciary, and the cases were handled by judges. Before that, it was not that kind of procedures. So he established the judiciary. He established police stations. It was Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh who introduced measures and weights. It was under the reign of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh that he constructed schools. It was Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh who constructed canals and roads. It was Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh who established the defense system of the country for the army. And it was one of the most important establishment that he did. And one of the things that he introduced that is also very helpful for the Muslims even today, that he introduced the Hijra calendar, the lunar Islamic calendar that we follow. It was Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh that introduced the Hijri calendar. So when one day that a person, a Roman or a Persian non-Muslim person whose name was Firoz and his nickname was Abu Lu'lu, he got tax that was imposed on him. So he made a complaint to Umar radiallahu anh, who was the Khalifa at that time, that I think you should take this tax away from me. But Umar radiallahu anh said that this is not unjust, you have to give that tax. So he got angry upon that. Firoz Abu Lu'lu his name was, and in the 23rd Hijri, he stabbed Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh 6 times while he was praying in Fajr Salah. In Fajr Salah, he was stabbed. And after 3 days, it is said by historians that on the 26th Dhul Hijjah or on the 1st of Muharram, he passed away from this worldly life. So it was the dua, as I mentioned earlier, it was the dua that he wanted to get martyred in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He used to make this dua, Allahumma arzuqni shahadatan fi sabilika wa waj'al mawti fi baladi rasulika sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That, oh Allah, grant me martyrdom in your cause and in the city of your beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted the dua, and he was martyred in the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Not just that, he was such a true orator and a great orator that he used to give sermons full of wisdoms. His words were full of wisdom. As we see that this is the end of the Islamic year, Dhul Hijj, we are completing the Islamic year. We have to do the muhasibah. We have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to examine ourselves. Where are we heading towards? Now there will be a new Islamic year. Where are we heading towards? Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh says that حاسبوا أنفسكم قبل أن تحاسبوا وزنوا أنفسكم قبل أن توزنوا فإنه أهون عليكم في الحساب غدا أن تحاسبوا أنفسكم اليوم. Subhanallah. He says that hold yourself accountable before you are held accountable. Examine yourself, hold yourself accountable before you are held accountable in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. And he says, and evaluate yourself before you are evaluated. And before the reckoning will be done tomorrow upon you, you should do yourself the hisab, the muhasibah. And if you hold yourself accountable today, you will not be held accountable tomorrow on the day of judgment. See, this was the story, this was the life of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh. That is the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha wa kunu ma'a sadiqeen. O believers, be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and be with the truthful, with the sadiqeen, like Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to follow the path of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh and the Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to the straight path. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغِ. 5 minutes for sunnah prayer.